Good morning. This is Dr. David A. Padgett. This is World Regional Geography 1010, Section 98A, Spring Semester 2021. Today is March 3rd. I'm going to share my screen and get going here. So where we are now is moving through the first part of Unit B. And so for this week, we're going to have, or you're going to have, a reading assignment. And so we're walking through some of the pertinent parts of the reading assignment today. The focus is upon the physical environment of North America. Also, just be aware that Article Review 2 is due on next Monday. So for this week, you just have this reading assignment and Article Review 2. On Monday, you will be administered a research quiz. So your first research quiz. So just for your information, FYI, go back and look at the syllabus. Just refresh our memories. So here we have, so we just took the Unit A exam. I will do all I can to have, well, those and everything else graded by next Monday. I know I've gotten a little bit behind on that. And so your research quizzes are also very heavily weighted. I will walk you through the instructions for the research quizzes next week. So just be aware of that. Be ready for that on Monday. So let's get into the content for this week, or let's get into the continuation of this week's discussion or lecture on the physical environment of North America. Last time we spent a lot of the period talking about climate. And so we looked at various aspects of climate, different climate graphs. So you'll be expected to, say, look at a climate graph on the research quiz and be able to determine what kind of climate this is. Is it a D climate? I probably won't ask you to differentiate between a DFA and DFB climate, but you should be able to differentiate between a D climate and an A climate, or a C climate and a B climate, and so on and so forth. So if you go back and watch the lecture recording, you'll see how to interpret these graphs. Interpreting graphs is a very important skill in geography, as well as interpreting maps. So a lot of earth science related data is, of course, recorded and displayed in the graphical format. So it's just something that you should get used to doing, regardless of what scientific, even social science, physical science, or any of the sciences. Graph interpretation and reading is a very important skill. Okay, so today we're going to move into a slightly different direction. We're going to now look at the physical geography of North America. And so here's a map that is included with the reading assignment. Now, we use the map from the textbook for the GIS assignment, which was fine. But in this case, I want us to take a much more in-depth look at this, at the physical regions throughout North America. And so here is a choropleth map, North America. Let's go from south to north. Let's go from southeast towards the northwest. And so we have, of course, this map is a mixture between vegetation cover and, of course, physical geography of the region. Now, most of these regions you've already seen: the coastal plain here, the Appalachian Range, the Great Plains grasslands, the Basin and Range region, Rocky Mountains, and so on and so forth. But one of the regions that you have perhaps not noticed is this Piedmont region. So this Piedmont region is a transition from the mountains to the coastal plain. So the coastal plain is made up of mostly unconsolidated sand, sediments. The mountains are solid rock, basically. And so the Piedmont region is a transition between the two, which is mostly hills. And so what you should do in looking at this map, or what I would probably ask you to do, is to align different regions on this map with different various parts of the country. So I might ask, what climate region is most closely associated with the southeastern coastal plain? You should know that that's CR climate, or a subtropical, permanently rainy climate, as opposed to on this West Coast region, which is the Mediterranean scrub. Now, the Mediterranean scrub is a type of vegetative cover. So that is not a physical region. That's a type of plant ecosystem. The plants are usually small and shrubs. One of the types of plants that's common in the Mediterranean scrub is mesquite, and other plants like that. Then, of course, we have the temperate savanna, which, of course, in yellow is another grassland. So you should make note of where these various regions are and where they align with other regions, such as climate regions or vegetative regions, for the most part. Now, obviously, what's missing from this map is major hydrology. And so we will get into the major water resources of the country by consulting figure 12.1 in the textbook. So be prepared to do that from time to time. Oh, there's the textbook. Textbook is hiding out for a minute. All right, get into the textbook. And we have this figure 12.3, but we really want figure 12.1. So you have to refer to both of these maps as you complete the quiz next week. So the quiz next week will be, open book. You will have to do some research. And so you'll have access to all of the resources, just like you did with the Unit A exam. The difference is that you're going to have to justify your answer. So you're not only going to have to tell me which answer you think is correct, A, B, C, D, or E. You're also going to have to provide a source and a verification or justification for your answer. So it's not just guessing A, B, C, D, E. You'll have to say, well, I chose A because dot dot diddy dot dot dash. Here's the source of the information that I used to come to get my answer. So you'll get points for the correct answer. You'll get points for how strong your justification is. In other words, it's no guessing, no guessing. So it's more of a research quiz, but it'll be open book. You'll be able to look at this map. Now on this map, mostly just kind of align yourselves, be aware of which lakes and water, bodies of water are most closely associated with Canada and which ones are most closely associated with the United States. You should know the region around the Great Lakes. I'm not going to ask you to, well, it's open book. So you can look up these Great Lakes in this region if I ask you something about that. Take a close look at these lines of latitude. I will be asking you to know, for instance, approximately what latitude is the boundary between the United States and Canada. You see that's about 50 degrees north latitude. You'll have to know that. I will ask you about some of these major rivers, the Ohio, Mississippi, the Missouri, the Saskatchewan, and so on and so forth. Great Salt Lake. I think the Columbia River is here, the Snake River, and so on and so forth. The Colorado River. You should know where those major rivers are, along with some of the, you should know where the Gulf of Mexico is. I'm not going to ask you about any rivers or lakes that aren't labeled on this map. So don't worry about that. But you should at least know these major ones. The mountain ranges, you should know where these mountain ranges are. Here's the Rocky Mountains, the Wichita Mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, and so on and so forth. You should know here's the Alaska Range, Brooks Range. Now, Mount McKinley, that mountain is no longer known as that. So I'm going to say Mount McKinley renamed. Mount McKinley has been renamed Denali. Denali is the indigenous or Native American name given to the mountain. And so President Obama renamed the park, named the mountain Denali, and the park Denali National Park. So just remember that when I ask you about Mount Denali, that Mount McKinley and Mount Denali are the same thing, except that now Denali is the official name of the mountain, which is the name given to it by Native American people, and so that's the new name. So don't be confused if you see Mount Denali in a question and you don't know. If you're watching this recording, you should make note of that. So familiarize yourself with that map of North America. Here it is. That's at figure 12.1 in the textbook. Now, I have to point out that there is a mistake on this map. Let's see if anybody is actually in class today. Look at the Florida Peninsula and look at these lines of latitude. Can anybody tell me, can anybody see where the mistake is on this map? Okay, look at the Florida Peninsula and look at this line of latitude. Anybody see any mistake on this map? Anybody notice a mistake? Anybody? Maya Weaver, do you notice anything unusual here?
Does it have to do with like the Tropic of Cancer being like in the wrong place?
Yeah, it's absolutely too far north. The Tropic of Cancer does not cross through Florida. So once again, there's another mistake on this map. Now, so just be aware that just be aware of the fact that if we go to the some of the content for Unit A, and map interpretation basics, and then we have this Mercator projection map. That's not the bright. That's not the best one. The best one is in here. And so if you notice in this reading, scroll down to the Mercator projection. This is the correct position of the Tropic of Cancer. Notice it's 23.5 degrees north, but it goes right past the tip of the Baja Peninsula, and it does not go through Florida. So some cartographer made a mistake on that map. Just wanted to point that out, just so you'll know. Okay, so let's get back into the Unit B, physical environment. We looked at the various physical regions. We looked at climate. Let's look at some of the other pertinent facts that we should know about the physical geography of North America, and that is the earthquake hazard. So you'll need to know where in North America, well, in this case, the United States and Canada, United States, Alaska, and Hawaii, where the greatest earthquake risk is. And so you've probably obviously heard about the earthquake risk in California, and you might know that Alaska is also a place of high earthquake hazard, and that is because the California and Alaska are on the plate boundaries, seismic plate boundaries. And so the Earth's surface is covered by a series of plates that move around. And there's actually a diagram in the textbook in the first chapter. Let's see if I can get to it easily. Okay, just trying to get to it without closing the class up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go to textbook and I'm going to go to images. Let me see, this image is somewhere in chapter 1. At the tectonic plate boundaries. Let's see, what was that? Let's see if I can. It could be in chapter 2, perhaps. Oh, here it is. So here's figure 2.8. And if you notice, we have the figure 2.8b. So here are the plate boundaries. And so notice that Alaska is along one of the plate boundaries, and the Hawaiian Islands are, of course, formed through volcanic activity. So we would expect to have some form of volcanic activity or earthquake risk associated with the areas along those plate boundaries, because where those plates come together, there's a lot of friction, and that friction results in earthquakes. And so we know that about California and the West Coast. People in California are very used to earthquakes. It's very interesting. I was in San Diego about 2 years ago, and there was an earthquake. Let's see, 2019. California earthquake. Let's see if it's in here. Yeah, 7.1. I was in California when this earthquake struck Southern California. And I was in San Diego. Now, just to give you an idea, the epicenter of the quake was 250 miles away from where I was in San Diego. 250 miles away. But it was a 7.1 magnitude earthquake. That's a pretty powerful earthquake. So I was in a hotel room 250 miles away from the epicenter of this quake. And all of a sudden the whole hotel, this is a big hotel, the whole building started to do this. And then it started to go faster. And I was like, oh, what is going on? After a while, I didn't realize what was happening. After a while, I realized that, hey, this is an earthquake. Luckily, the building stopped swinging. Now, I'm not saying I was traumatized. I was quite shocked. The people from California were like, hey, and they weren't fazed a bit. But there was a friend of mine from Houston. He left the next day, the next morning. He was on the first thing smoking. He went back to Houston. He said, I'm not doing this again. So it's a really humbling experience to be in an earthquake like that, just to feel that amount of power. How much power does that take to shake a building like this? I mean, a big building from 250 miles away. Now, notice that there's another big bullseye right around Memphis and St. Louis and Western Kentucky. It's pretty close to where we are. So that might be surprising that there's an earthquake zone here. But that earthquake zone is very active. It's called the New Madrid earthquake zone. And so some of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded occurred right along this in this earthquake zone, the New Madrid earthquake zone. And a lot of people don't realize it. And so here is see, I thought I had so I was also in another earthquake, and I will See if this is going to work. Can you all hear that?
No.
Can you hear it?
No.
You can't hear the sound?
No.
No.
Wait a minute. Okay, tell me if you can hear it now.
I still can't hear it.
You can't hear that?
No.
No.
Excuse me?
No, I can't hear it.
All right. That's odd. Okay, well, if you I guess on your own time, just spoiler alert. I guess you can't hear it. But I'll fast forward through here. But just spoiler alert, that you might see a familiar face in this news story. But what happened was there was an earthquake. This is in 2008. And just like when I was interviewed to talk about the tornado that struck Nashville, the local news station interviewed me to explain what happened during the earthquake and the New Madrid fault. And so that's me with no gray hair. But I was actually up. The earthquake occurred at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and for whatever reason, I was up doing laundry, and I felt my whole house shake, and I thought, what was that? I thought it was a truck, or I thought maybe there was construction, but I said at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, the next day, the local news station called me. I did the interview.
I was about to say, I'm like, that's you I see?
Yeah, that was me. So if you download it onto your computer, I'm sure you can hear it. I don't see how you're not anyway, but let's just keep it moving. But it's on YouTube. You have the link. But yes, earthquakes can occur in this region and do occur. That's not the only one. We've had some since then that have occurred right here in this region. So let's look at some other figures of interest. Let's see, figure 1210 in the textbook. And you just navigate your way through the textbooks, figures. Oh man, see 1210, here we go. So figure 1210 is, this map should look familiar from when you did your GIS assignment. And so again, you should familiarize yourself with the various vegetative cover. These are, of course, plants and trees and grasses. Some of them are pretty obvious: Great Plains, grass. Desert has desert vegetation. Again, desert vegetation is vegetation that has adapted to a desert climate. We also have, of course, tundra, very cold region there. And now this color area symbol for needle-leaf trees is missing from the legend, but it's that really dark green area that stretches across Canada. It's very, these are, I guess, needle-leaf trees, or sometimes we call them pine trees. Of course, in our region, we have this region of what are called, this is the mixed forest here. And so with mixed trees, what's interesting is that, well, there's good news and bad news about the mixed forest that we have here in Middle Tennessee. The good news is that if you're into hiking or into the outdoors, I was outside yesterday and I was amazed at the diversity of the plant ecosystem here. So where we were doing a outdoor exercise with an education class. They were doing a globe certification. Those of you who are planning on being teachers will do the same exercise later on in this class. But we were outside yesterday on campus, and where we were standing, there were deciduous trees, there were broadleaf evergreen trees, there were also evergreen needle-leaf trees, all right there next to the old courtyard. Very diverse forest. So the good news is that we have all kinds of plants, and that's because we're not too far north to eliminate some of the evergreen trees, the broadleaf evergreens, but we're far north enough that we do see the presence of needle-leaf evergreens. And as you can see, the needle-leaf evergreens are mostly associated with these far northern regions. And then also we have deciduous trees. So there were a lot of trees that didn't have leaves on them. So those are deciduous trees that have lost their leaves. And trees shed their leaves during the winter in order to preserve moisture. The leaves fall off so the trees can retain moisture because there's not as much moisture in the winter as there is during the summer. And so that's the good news. Very diverse, very beautiful forest. That's why a lot of people come to Tennessee to go hiking. The bad news is that if you're an allergy sufferer, this is the worst place to be because there's such a diversity of plants. There's always, if it's ragweed or something else, something is shedding something in the air around here for you to breathe in and sneeze over, and sneeze make you sneeze. So that's one of the characteristics of the mixed forest. Very diverse, but of course not good for allergy sufferers. So let's look at figure 1210. Let's go back to this. So from this reading assignment, again, be aware of all of these key places, these physical regions. Also in the textbook, before I forget, you should also know where these specific mountains are. So not only the ranges, but here's Mount McKinley. That's the highest point in North America. Mount Whitney is the highest point in the United States. And then of course you have Mount Rainier, which is another high point. The lowest point in North America here is Death Valley at 282 feet below sea level. So there's Death Valley, which is on the border between California and Nevada. So be aware of that also. So think we have pretty much covered everything there is to cover about the physical geography of North America. So while I'm here, oh, I know it was also pay. Yeah, we covered this vegetation map last time again. So all of these maps should be in on your list of to read or to study this week, so that you'll be prepared for the quiz. Okay, at this point, I am going to stop the recording.